Good evening and welcome to the night's live Q&A. As per previous weeks, the idea of tonight is to go through any of the questions that you have. So straight away, make sure you get your questions loaded into the chat window and we'll be able to answer those as we go through the evening. So it's great to have you here. It's great that it's been a demand to get the live Q&A going as a more regular event, and I'm pleased and really humbled to be able to help and serve you all, be able to make your business become more growing, profitable and more sustainable. So over the next hour we're going to be looking at a few things. We're going to look at the business plan, how your business plan is being used, and then really start to look at those kind of key questions and answers that you have or that you need to have when you start looking at your business and make sure you do get the best out of your business going forward. So as we've said, just make sure you keep those questions coming in. Please make sure we get lots of hearts, lots of messages coming up. If you can hear me and you can hear everything's okay, it sounds okay, just let me know in the chat window. And then if there isn't, I'll make sure I can change it. I love the notes with regards to the music in the background. On hold music, thank you, Dom. Yeah, we went for something a little bit funky, a bit upbeat, so trying to keep the mood high and get people into kind of that right mindset. Because the mindset here is all around, challenging ourselves to move forwards. And that should be a bit of fun because, when we are expanding and we're growing and we're changing, we should make it as fun as we can, because if we make it dreary and boring and kind of subdued and it's a toil, then why are we doing it? Why are we really in business? If really we're kind of creating ourselves pain, then that's just ridiculous. So I do want to try and make sure that we bring the fun out in business, and we do try and find those interesting, exciting things. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not Pollyanna about this, in the fact that I do realise there are days when things don't go well, and you do have those kind of feelings of, oh my God, how the hell am I going to get through this, or what's going to happen next, and you're kind of just in that position where you're thinking, oh God, and to me that's kind of part of the trial of having a business, because you kind of go through those and you battle through those real trying days, but you got to find the fun in those days as well, even if the fun is just getting to the end of it and think, my God, I survived, yes, I made it, I've managed another day, and just find a fun way of being able to manage something in the day and make it happen. So why did I think about doing the business plan? So last week's, if you'd noticed with regards to the theme of the week, it was all around business planning and things that you should be doing with your business plan. That's kind of the messages as we're putting out on the Facebook group and trying to really get people to think about it a little bit more over the last 7 days. And as it happens, one of our new members submitted the question to say they wanted to know how they could gain investments and some technical support. Now, I'm hoping with regards to the technical support, we're building a great community here where we've got lots of really fantastic technical experts in a whole range of different fields. And over time, I'm hoping as you guys are sharing and introducing each other to each other, you'll be able to start looking at how you can service each other as well. Now, above and beyond that, if there is anything that I can do to help, you only have to shout and I'll be able to try and submit that. I do have quite a nice black pocket book full of some great contacts of people that I've been working in business now for over the last 25 years. So feel free to reach out if you do have any questions, etc. I'm more than willing to share. At the end of the day, I don't know the answer to every question, but what I do try to do is at least make sure I can find somebody that does, or give you a point in the right direction either way. So without ado, thinking about the other part of the question, which is how can we gain investments? Because that's probably one of the key things that we're kind of thinking about in business. Certainly when you start setting up, it's like, where's the money going to come from? How do I make sure we've got enough money coming in? What happens if I want to grow and I don't have enough money to be able to fund that from cash flow? So how can I deal with this kind of investment piece and the strategy piece? And that always kind of brings us down to the one key question, which is all around how do I write a business plan? Because at some point in time, someone's going to ask you for one. So what I'm going to do is going to start by introducing you to another model that I've used. Last week we talked about the leadership model. This week we're going to look at the business growth generator model. So the business growth generator model is really split into two key parts. We have what we call the foundational four, which any business of any size really should be dealing with. So even if you're a one-man organisation, if you haven't got those four key attributes inside your business, then you'll really be struggling of being able to build a successful business that will actually work and scale for you. And this is any kind of organisation, when you kind of think that only 1 in 10 businesses survive to 10 years, and in fact nearly 50% of all businesses are out of business within 3 years, and something like 20% of businesses don't even make it to 1 year, and this is all about getting these 4 core skills in place around like contribution, concept, communication and control. So if you've kind of got those skills, and that's great, you've gone to a winner with a key business that's going to start growing. And then once you've got those kind of 4 skills in place, then you can start looking at how you can build a business that's going to grow, and that's really then start to look at the other 5 skills. And these business builder skills are all around like cultivating, community, chief, core, and coordination. But tonight we're just going to look at one small area around control. And for that we use the Marvelous Money Matrix, because in the Marvelous Money Matrix we go into a number of different key items that you need to be looking at when you're looking at the financial side of your business and how your business works. So when we're looking today at this one, we're going to look specifically around finance for growth, and specifically we're looking at what are investors, and really what do investors want? Because it's got to be the question you kind of think in the back of your mind as you start thinking, okay, well, I need some money to bring into the business to like fund my growth or fund this next purchase or whatever's going to happen. So what is it that investors want? What will make them attractive to my deal and make it so that I can actually have an offering for them that they will be interested in? And for that, we will go through, and you can think of it from an investor's point of view. So, for example, first of all, they're looking for an investable proposition, because if you don't have an investable proposition, you've probably just got a lifestyle business. An investable proposition has something that's tangible, something that can grow, something that's licensable, something that's more than just you, effectively. I know that might sound harsh, but the reality is you as a person don't scale very well. You've only got so many hours in the day, and even on the greatest day where you think you can do 24 hours in the day, I believe you'd be pretty tired by the end of it. So they're looking for something that will grow, that's something that's buildable, something that they could potentially sell at some point in time. So they are looking for that investable position. The other things they're going to be looking for is things to make sure that you've got a believable and credible and deliverable business plan, because you might have a believable and credible business plan, but it might not be deliverable in the fact that you might not be able to action against it and make it happen, or you might have something that's believable and deliverable but might not be credible that you could deliver it. It might be that somebody else needs to do it, or you might have something that you've got the credibility in and it seems like it's deliverable, but it really feels like the benefits are far too big, and they're a bit second guessing actually what you're trying to do there. So again, making sure you've kind of targeted that at the right level so that people will believe that you can do it, and also believe that you can make it happen, and it's a viable plan is absolutely imperative. They're also looking at what is the exit strategy. So how are they going to get their money back? When are they going to get their return on their investment? So when you're thinking about how you're going to structure that conversation with the investor, that's one of the key things they've got in their mind, and really should be one of the key things you've got in your mind as well, is how are you going to get back your investment of time and money that you're putting into your business to make sure that you're in a position where you're actually going to benefit as well. They're going to be looking also at the management team you've got in place, which includes yourself, and to make sure that they're truly committed, not just committed from a point of they're getting a wage or they're doing something over time, but they have some skin in the game. They have some real reason, some hard reason to actually be there, and that means that they'll be committed not only from a point of view of getting money out of it, but also committed from a time perspective, and potentially committed from a case of something wider than financial. It might be a personal reason, it might be something to do with their credibility, it might be something to do with their career path, it might be something that they've got that's really passionate about, and therefore that's the reason why they've got commitment against it. But they'll be looking for what is that real strong commitment that makes that kind of happen. They also, investors aren't silly. What they'll be looking for is things such as low risk with a big potential. So if you've got a high risk with a low potential, the probability of getting any kind of funding from them's pretty small. And they'll also be looking at trying to get a turnaround on their money quite quickly. So usually you'll be looking at a maximum of maybe 3 to 5 years. that they'll be looking at trying to get their money back out of it, and they're usually looking for 3 to 5 times of the return on their investment. There are certain circumstances where that changes. So for example, with property investing, you might find investors might be looking at only a 10% return on their investment, but when it comes down to like loans against businesses, etc., they're usually looking for a higher return because they see that as being a higher risk. Therefore the reward has to be valued against that risk. So that's kind of a few ideas of what the investor wants. So the next kind of question you might be asking yourself is where are you going to find your investors? Right? And investors can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and sometimes from the most unlikeliest positions, because instantly everybody will think about straight away, well, we can go to a bank and they'll be able to give us a bank loan of some kind, and that's certainly one way of being able to get investment through. But you've also got things such as friends and family. And friends and family are probably one of the greatest assets you have, because they'll probably back you even on the highest risk with the worst possible ideas coming out, because they believe in you. You've got that credibility already, so they'll be really looking to try and help you to be a success and to make the most out of it. So that's certainly one avenue you can look at. There's things like business angels. So these are businesses set up to provide loans for other businesses for a return on that investment. And they usually start with some potentially low values and grow to bigger ones. And there is a whole variety of different business angels out there. Some of them club together, like YABA, which is the Yorkshire Association of Business Angels. There's things like the British Business Angels Group. There's different types, so you can get business angels that will target specific regions. You get business angels that target specific business types. And you also find with them, they bring a lot of skills to the table. So in many cases, you'll find a business angel not only will bring money to the table, but they may bring vendors with them, they may bring their relationships with them, and sometimes their own expertise. My accountant, that's the word I was looking for, he's actually a business angel as well. So you can imagine, not only do you get some money funding your business, but when you're working with him, he also brings some of his expertise. But he's a very savvy investor, so he looks very closely at what the offering is and whether it's something that he would be really interested in. You've got things like high net worth individuals who are looking at ways that they can invest their money wisely to be able to look at getting some return on that. You've got things like crowdfunding that's available, and there's a whole variety of different crowdfunding websites that have been popped up over the internet in the last few years. You've also got like big fund pots or venture capitalist pots, which kind of, again, they're ways of being able to get money into your business and looking at various different things. And they will have different clauses and they might target different specific niche areas that you may or may not qualify for. So when you're thinking about all these different investors, you can then start to think, actually, well, how do they play out on the wider map of who gives what to whom? Now, when you think about an investment, it really has three kind of key dynamics from an investor's point of view. There's the value of the investment, so how much you're asking for. There's the risk that investment carries, and then on top of that, you've got the amount of equity that you're willing to give away to be able to have that investment in your business. And that's where effectively people are looking at some kind of shareholdings in the business to be able to make that happen or move forwards. Just a quick shout out to Judith and author Michelle Watson. Welcome this evening. So going back to what we were talking about there, so if we now start to map over all those different types of investors we talked about a minute ago into this grid, we can start to think about where they actually pull themselves together. So if we think for example, from a banking point of view, so banks are quite easy. They'll give you a low value loan up to potentially high values, up to millions in some cases, depending on what the portfolio is like that you've got to offer. They can usually do this for no equity to start off with, and they usually see it as being, they look for the no risk investments. So they are looking for things that are pretty much ironclad when it comes down to getting their money back. So they would be looking for some kind of personal guarantee in most cases, or a charge on your home, or something like being able to take the assets away if it's actually sunk into some key assets in your business. When you think about things like friends and family, again, like we said before, they're usually quite good for giving like small loans to get you started or get you over a specific hump. They usually don't ask for a percentage equity in the business, and they're probably one of the key investor pots that would actually give you something that would feel more high risk to another investor. So again, that kind of fits into that piece. Most people, when they do a friends and family loan, don't ask for any personal guarantees, but that's because you live with them effectively, and they feel that you're gonna pay the loan back because you do that out of friendship, or you do that out of the commitment to the family. And if you didn't, obviously that's going to make you feel quite awkward, them feel quite awkward, and potentially could ruin friendships and families. And therefore that feeling that you have is what actually binds that agreement together. Then we kind of look at the venture capitalists. So venture capitalists they're looking for sometimes the high value investments. So they're looking at potentially sinking in like hundreds of thousands of pounds. They usually look for a good equity share in whatever their investments are. If anyone's watched, what's that program with Alan Sugar in? I haven't watched it for years. Oh, it's gone completely out of my mind. Anyway, that one, Dragon's Den. No, it doesn't have Alan Sugar in, does it? Anyway, but it's Dragon's. What plan am I on? Anyway, so Dragon's Den, and you kind of look at the kind of investments they're looking for versus the amount of equity they're asking for, and you can see straight away there is a disparity. They ask for a fair chunk of the business for what could seem like quite a modest investment in some case, and that's due to the risk profile. They might see it as being quite a high risk, and therefore they'll look for a higher equity versus the amount they're going to get, but they don't usually ask for a personal guarantee. With your high net worth individuals, again, they tend to be in that kind of same kind of category, although don't tend to ask for necessarily as much equity in the business, but they are looking for a good return. And then you get the business angels, which again will quite happily loan small values up to bigger values as well. So when we've kind of thought about all those kind of types of investors that we've got and what you could potentially get for helping you to grow your business, you then might have the question of thinking, well, what are the requirements that they're going to be looking for? And that's where we're going to start to spend a bit more time now just thinking about that. So most of the requirements when they're looking at things come down to like three key areas. One's a business plan, the other one's going to be how much intellectual property you've got, and the third thing is going to be your credibility, your presentation effectively, and then they will be looking for you to deliver on those things. So your business plan really needs to be looking at what is it that you're asking for, why is it you're asking for it, how are you going to get your money back out, how are you going to give them their money back, and how you're going to make a profit as well. So even though you're dividing all the money everywhere, it's making sure the business is still safe and sound going forwards. Then when you think about it from the why they want you to present it, it's because predominantly these type of loans are character led. They're looking to see, can you actually pull this off? Have you got the mustard effectively? Will you stay the course? Will you make it happen? Will you kind of got the determination behind it? Because they don't just give money to anybody. They want to make sure that the individual that's got that can actually make it do it, can make that viable business, can communicate that across to with passion and with a desire to make a change. And not only that, they're also looking to make sure that you've got the right controls in place in your business. That will not only mean that you can do it, but you also get early warnings to say when problems are arising or when things are going even better, you can grow at a faster rate. So they will be looking at those kind of things. So let's dive into like 4 key areas now that you need to include in an investor business plan. So if you'd like to write down 4 S's, this kind of will give you some key points to think about as we're going through. So the first of the S's, this is all to do with when you've got this, it means you are absolutely spot on for the investor type you've gone for. When you've not got this correct, then effectively you probably will never get the money because you've mismatched who you're trying to get the loan from versus what you're trying to do with it. And this is all around suitability. Now, what do I mean by suitability? We're looking here at your track record, your credibility. How do you be able to detail your business experience and how that links directly to the money that you're borrowing? So you'd be looking at how you can deal with your management accounts, how you deal with your business strategy, and actually giving them an insight into these things so they can see that you know what you're doing. They'll be looking, for instance, why do you want the loan? Is it for some working capital? capital? Is it for a fixed asset purchase? Is it for an expansion plan? So what is the money going to go towards? And they will be looking to see that it is actually something specific that's going to aid the business going forwards. So they're not tending to look for giving you a loan just for operational costs effectively. There needs to be some real purpose behind that loan, that amount of money they're going to be giving you to then give them the confidence to going forwards. It's one of those kind of sayings, and you might have heard it before, that it's really easy to get money when you don't need it and really hard to get money when you do. And this is the kind of area because of that. Because if you're in a position where you're desperate for money, because you need it to continue to operate your business, then your business isn't working, and no investor is going to give you something that's to a business that's not working. So they will always invest in a business that is working, because then you can grow it and make it even bigger. So they're also going to be looking at how that money is going to benefit the business. So not only what you're going to use it, but then what's going to be the benefit for the business. How's that going to change? How's that going to make it work even better? And for that, they are looking for that real concise business plan. They're not looking for a huge tomb of information. They are looking at something that's probably 7 to 12 pages, quite short, really snappy and to the point with some key areas. So really looking at like what it does, why you're doing the borrowing, and what the funding requirements are needed for. Okay, so that kind of covers the suitability piece of what you're looking at putting in the business plan. The other area you're going to be looking at is really to do with how much you've got in there, because the more that you've got in it, the more comfort they're going to have in it, and that's looking at the stake. So that's how much equity upfront is being put into the deal, effectively. How much have you got in there, and how much have they got in there? Because if it's disproportionate, so for example, if you're only putting 50% and they're putting 50%, and it's a high risk venture, then they may feel uncomfortable in that. Whereas if you're putting 70% and they're putting 30%, they probably feel a lot more comfortable in that. And therefore they will be looking at potentially putting less conditions on the loan agreement that you have in place. And never kind of underestimate the amount that the funder's going to give you, because sometimes asking for more can sometimes actually be better, depending on what kind of growth you're going for or what kind of improvement you're doing in your business. So when you do ask for that stake, keep very clear how much of it is going to be from your business perspective and how much of it is going to be from theirs. And if you're going to be then giving away equity as part of your stake, so if it's not just going to be a loan without a guarantee or anything, then again make sure that that's very clearly understood how much of that equity and what that equity is worth. Because it might be, if you set up your limited company per se, that you originally valued it at £1 per share, but the reality is now your business is, after 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years of trading, is worth a lot more. And if you haven't reevaluated what those shareholdings are worth, you could be giving away more equity than what you actually really believe you should be doing. So really look and understand how much that stake is worth that someone's going to be taking from your business. The next element we're going to look at is it's the ability for a business to be able to repay that debt, and that's really all around serviceability. Because again, you need to be able to demonstrate that not only are you competent with running a business, competent in being able to manage money, etc., but you also need to make sure that you're not crippling the business by taking on too much debt that you can't actually then repay. So this is where things like the cash flow forecast, your profit and loss, and those kind of accounting reports will come in really handy to be able to show the potential investor how will you be able to service that debt going forwards, and show them that you've really put due consideration and thought about all the kind of what if scenarios that would make that work for them. And when you do your forecasts, so you put your cash flow forecast together or your forecasted P&L, make sure you include the repayments into that forecast. And then this is kind of one of those things that some people miss, because they're kind of used to doing the cash flow forecast to be able to forecast their next quarter, the next year, the next 2 years, based on their current expenditure. but they haven't done the what if scenario that includes the serviceability of that debt. So really adding that in is kind of a real key thing here, and also adding there some elements around how much what would happen if it goes up to your sales go down or your costs go up, just so that they can see that you've had a thought about what would happen in the future should things change than what they are today, because the only constant in life is change, I do believe. Or actually I think the only constant in life these days is the acceleration of change, but that's a completely different subject, I think. So they will be looking at that, and in many cases they will look at some of the indicator figures you've got on those kind of reports to kind of give you a better idea what's going on there. Now, the last element of this is really around how they're going to be able to feel that you've got that final commitment, because if they don't feel this, then what they will do is they will look at some other way of being able to make sure they can get their money back, and that's all around the security side. So what is that debt going to be secured against? So if it's again like a property investment, then what they'll have is a loan to value kind of thing, which might be 50 or 70% of the cost of the property. If it's in stock for growth of a business that holds stock value, that might be only 10 to 25% of that value. If it's for growth against releasing a new product or a new service, again what they might be doing is looking for other ways of being able to gain security, and that might even be a charge on your own home to be able to make sure that they feel confident that if something did go wrong, they will be able to get their money back. So hopefully that's kind of give you really 4 key areas to look at when you're building the content that's going to go inside your business plan if you're looking to try and get investment. Now, when we start to look at that then as a quick flow through what you put in that document, the first bit is the executive summary. This is probably the key thing, and probably the one thing you might want to write first, because it's probably one of the elements that everybody who gets hold of that document will read straight away. So really understanding what will be the outcome, how you're going to make that work, what the solution is going to be for your business. The next kind of key section you're going to have in is really going to be looking at what would happen in those what if scenarios. So it's almost like the time to death figure in what would happen if you didn't get any more sales. How long could your business survive effectively? So they'll be looking at making sure you've gone through the whole process of understanding what the commitment is, that you have some contingency plans in place to be able to then try and service that debt or build the business in a different direction, or be able to make sure the business is going in the right direction to keep growing, hopefully. The other thing they'll be looking at is, have you looked at different scenarios? So other things that might happen. So for example, what's the best case, what's the worst case, what's the expected case, what happens if you have different market fluctuations like we mentioned before. So again, having a section inside that investor document that talks about some of those things. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, but again, it really gives them confidence that as a owner manager of a business, you've really got your finger on the pulse of what makes your business work and how you can make it work even better. Then they'll be looking at why is it considered a viable business, and again, make it easy for them. So put a sentence in there as to why your business is absolutely fantastic and what it does, because if you can spell it out to them straight away, they will have read it, and they may form their own opinion afterwards, but they've got at least the echo of your opinion in their mind as well. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is getting the ideas in their mind that are already in yours as to what's going to be great in the future. They also look at a thing called the hurt money. In other words, how much skin have you got in the game? So if you've already invested 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 more effectively in some organisations, then you're fairly well committed to that venture because you want to get your money back at some point in the future. If you've only gone into it and you've spent 2 hours trying to create a business plan and £1,000 on registering, pardon me, then they're not going to feel like you've got enough skin in the game at that point. And then the final thing is they're going to be looking at how can they make sure you're covering your debts. So they'll be looking at some of the figures and making sure you have enough money in place to be able to cover that, and that's usually as a percentage factor of the amount of profit that you make. So that's what they'll be looking through. and I've kind of realised I've just gone through the whole of that and I've forgotten to flick the screen over to share the slides. Oh dear, technology, don't you just love it? So let me just quickly recap that one for you. So that there was the 4 S's. So the first one was all around suitability. So that's around making sure that you're suitable as a candidate to be able to do this, your business is suitable, that you have the right experience, etc. Making sure that you understand the stake that you're giving away, how much equity that you're putting in, how much equity you're expecting from there, how much cash, etc. Serviceability, making sure that you're able to service your debts and it's not going to cause you too much harm. And make sure that the relevant securities are in place so that they will get paid no matter what happens with that venture. Okay, and then to quickly recap on the content you want to put in that document, you are looking at like those key sections around your summary, around how long your business will survive without any sales, around making sure you've looked at all those different scenarios, make sure you tell them why it's a viable business, and make sure you've got that hurt money in place. So that's great, because what we've done now is we've just looked at that as a scenario specifically for investors. But what about running your own business? Because it's great looking at making a plan for how you do those investments, but a business plan, especially if you're looking for like a business growth, profitability and sustainability plan, really has to be a lot more than just looking at how the investors work. You really need to be looking at how does your business work and what's your plan going to be to make it work even better in the future. And for this, I kind of work with my clients on what's known as the GPS roadmap, and we've got a number of different sections. This is the template I thought I'd just quickly show you today. It kind of goes through a little bit about what your vision, your mission, your goals, your objectives are in your business. You go through the history of your business, what your expected growth matrices are, because these are all your targets. This is how you're going to be measuring your business against some financial targets to make sure you get some success. Understanding what your sales and marketing strategy is going to be, understand what your exit strategy is going to be, making sure that you've got your competitor analysis in here and you've actually understood what that's actually telling you, and make sure you've got your financial growth figures in here, and most importantly, make sure you understand your risks so that you know that you have a manageable and an accountable risk strategy in place. Also looking at things like your resource map. Do you have the right people in place? Do you have the right technology, the right organisations in place, the right vendors? Are you physically in the right locations? Have you looked at your financial resources? So we've just talked about one area around investments, but have you thought about things such as your cash flow projections? Do you understand when you're going to need money, etc.? Also looking at who you need to have in your business for growth and how that's going to work, and then your operational businesses, operational processes. How's your business going to become that asset that someone's wanting to invest in because it's more than just you? So these are kind of the key kind of areas you need to be thinking about actually to use the business planning strategy as a way of being able to make your business even better. Okay, so that's gone through that. Hopefully we've got a few questions now that have appeared, so we'll go to the chat and see what's on the chat window. The Apprentice is with Alan Sugar. Thank you, Janine. Dragon's Den is the investor show, which I love. Brilliant. Yeah, I think I've watched it once or twice, so yeah, it's been a while. Suitability. And what we've got next? Martin Siemens. How was the earned money spent? Yep, that's always a good thing to put in place. 2, stake. Thank you, Janine. Can you repeat what number 3 is? Yes. Sorry about that, Janine. I made a complete hash of that tonight. I must do better next time. So just for the screen, the serviceability is number 3 and security is number 4. I got a bless you from from Martin Siemens, thank you, and a laugh out loud from Helen. So thank you for the support there, guys. Absolutely wonderful. So if there's any other questions, then please feel free to ask them. If there, like before, if there's any questions that kind of come up after this and you'd like to put them into the group, I'll quite happily answer them in the group, or we can use it for the next Q&A session to be able to run through. But hopefully that's given you some great insight as to what you'd want to put together when it comes down to creating a business plan for investors. Also what kind of investors you might be looking for, and hopefully that's kind of answered that question that was raised around, what can they do about getting some investment into their business. I've also hopefully broadened the thoughts a little bit to beyond just doing a business plan just purely for investments, and really starting to use business planning as a tool you can use all the time to actually make sure your business is going in the right direction at the right time. So go back to the chat window. I don't think we've got any more questions at the moment. So if that's the case, I wish you all a really pleasant evening and look forward to speaking to you again in another couple of weeks. Bye for now.